We've got Prega Ramsamy from the Southern African Trust joining us to talk about intra-African trade and cross-border trade and some of the biggest issues that Africa faces right now. Prega, good to have you with us in studio. Let's just set the tone for this, because just looking at some of the numbers that have come through, in Southern Africa, custom delays are said to cost around $48 million per year. That was in 2009. I don't know if the figure has gone up or come down since then. Just looking at Breakbridge, you have trucks there that stand for around 36 hours at the borders. How bad are the delays right now?
Well, this is one of the serious problems that the traders are facing. It's the bottlenecks at the border points. And I think we shouldn't have such delays, because if there is efficiency at the border post, if government put more people to handle the different traffic coming in, there wouldn't have been such long queues. And they've got to have different channels. You know, there are green channels, yellow channels, or red channels, and traffic can be directed to those channels to make sure that, you know, there is a free flow of movement of goods and services across the borders.
What are the big problems in terms of the borders? Because many saying there are too many borders, there's inefficiency obviously at the borders, there's perhaps corruption. So what are the big problems?
It's a mixture of a number of problems. It is not a single problem. First, it's congestion at the border posts, because the border posts, they are not wide enough to allow traffic to flow. The second thing is they are manned by very few people. Even at peak times, when there are a number of trucks coming, you find the same number of people manning the borders. The third is, of course, inefficiency in terms of the equipment they use, the computers, old computers. You cannot capture the data properly.
Systems,
IT systems, at times they have to do it manually, and it causes a lot of problem. And of course, you've mentioned the issue of corruption. At times, you know, there are things that shouldn't be carry duty, and yet at the border post, the traders, especially the cross-border, informal cross-border traders, they are subject to all sorts of, you know, harassment. And one of these harassments is the issue of payments of duty when they shouldn't pay that.
Tell us about what the Southern Africa Trust is doing to address these problems.
Well, the Southern Africa Trust, we've got a number of initiatives. We call them key initiatives. And in most of those initiatives, we deal with a number of issues like food security, regional integration, cross-border trade. We deal with issues of inclusive business, leadership for change. And in all these initiatives, we've got a component that deals with the voice of the people. What are the challenges the people face in terms of doing business, in terms of getting their views across to the decision makers? So we at the Southern Africa Trust, as I've said, we've got a number of key initiatives, and one of them is the cross-border trade, informal cross-border trade.
Informal cross-border trade, because
Yes.
that is not obviously being able to, you can't quantify that, so you
Precisely.
don't know how to build that into your models. When we're looking at the models that have been built into, how do you build this into programs that are designed to improve the efficiency of cross-border trade?
Yes, you don't have statistics, that's sure, but from various studies that have been carried, it has been pointed out that informal cross-border trade contributes at least to 40% of intra-regional trade. And for each cross-border trader, each transaction is about $2,500. And if you can imagine the number of people that trade across borders, the amount of money that is involved.
Well, what does this mean for the tripartite agreement and plans to build that free trade region between ECOWAS, between COMESA and SADC? East African region.
East African, yes. The tripartite is a combination of the three regional bodies we've got in Southern and Eastern Africa. That is, as you rightly pointed out, it's East African Community, COMESA, and SADC. Each one of those regional groupings, they have got their own free trade area. But what has been decided recently by the heads of states and government, that there's no point having several free trade areas. Let's have a combined tripartite free trade area. But in this tripartite free trade area, again, the issue of informal cross-border traders has not been addressed. And I think it's important to address this issue. That's why we at the Southern Africa Trust, we are undertaking a big study to find out what are the challenges that these cross-border traders within the framework of the tripartite they are facing.
And how you will build them into, of course, the model that will be used for this free trade region. We've got to leave it at that for today. Thank you very much for joining us and shedding some light on what you do in Africa. Prega Ramsamy from the Southern Africa Trust.